Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 43 of Xiaolin Showdown, Omi Town. And it's Chinese New Year at the Xiaolin Temple, and since I'm not really familiar with Chinese customs, so apologies, ignorant white guy here, apparently that also entails that the Xiaolin monks all get presents. Again, don't really know jack shit about Chinese New Year, again, ignorant white guy, so this is probably normal. I don't know. I'm stupid. I don't know. Point is, the Xiaolin monks have all gotten presents from all of their family, save one. As Omi, well, as I said in other videos, he's an orphan. He was raised at the temple, so he doesn't really have any family to send him gifts around this time of year. And the fact that all the other Xiaolin monks have all this crap that they're getting from their family, all these things they love and all the things they wanted, it's kind of getting to Omi a little, and as a result, he's kind of in a bit of a funk, as he just kind of wonders who he is, where he came from, why he was brought to the temple, etc. As such, hearing of his students' woes, Master Feng encourages Omi to probably go on a quest, just basically to figure out where it is that he belongs. As such, Omi heeds his master's warnings, and with the other monks by his side, they go off to try and find out wherever it is that Omi was from. However, it turns out this conversation had a bit of a looker-on, so to speak, as utilizing Xiaolin magic, which I'm assuming that she has maybe a little bit of it, not enough to be powerful, but at least enough to, like, spy on people, we see Wuya. She's actually not in Chase Young's fortress. Rather, she's in the mountains somewhere, and who should be on her shoulder but Hannibal Roy Bean, who is basically encouraging her to basically just do her own evil thing behind Chase's back so that she can, accumulate power and eventually be restored to her former glory. And while Wuya is, well, Wuya and obviously doesn't want to cross Chase Young, it's still Wuya. She's an opportunistic bitch, and so she does listen to what Hannibal has to say. Though they are being spied on as well, as one of Chase's birds is watching them, and Chase is using his own magic to see through the eyes of the bird. But either way, whatever plan that Wuya and Hannibal have come up with, it involves Jack Spicer, as the pair of evildoers end up going to Jack's lab and pretty much just shoehorn him into helping them out, both by beating the shit out of him in Wuya's case, and Hannibal using the Moe Morpher to grow himself to giant size to intimidate the evil boy genius. Either way, though, he agrees to help them out, and from there, we cut back to the Xiaolin monks as they're just kind of flying around as Omi is trying to use his Wudai instincts to try and find out where it is that he belongs, as he thinks that if he goes out there long enough, he'll find a sign or whatever that'll point him in the direction that he needs to go. And such a sign appears as when they all look down to a wheat field, there is literally looks like a whole patch of the wheat field that's been cut out that's basically an arrow pointing in a random direction. And in the center of the arrow is Omi's face. So, yeah, if that ain't a sign, I don't know what is. Either way, the Xiaolin monks end up going out to see what it is, and sure enough, they end up finding what looks like a town full of Omis. Sort of. The townsfolk aren't like note to note the same like Omi, but the resemblance is uncanny, as all of them have yellow skin, round heads like him. It basically looks like this is the crop that Omi was cut from. However, who among these people are Omi's family, nobody knows. And as such, while the Xiaolin monks do split up and cover this Omi town to see if they can find Omi's parents, they kind of seem to run into dead end, and they keep running from dead end to dead end. That is until Raimundo comes up and says that he did find Omi's parents, and apparently they live just outside of town. Although when Omi is excited to hear this, Raimundo does say that there is one thing about Omi's parents that he should probably know, though Omi runs off before Raimundo gets a chance to tell him. Either way, Omi and the rest of the Xiaolin monks go to where Omi's parents supposedly live, and they find themselves at a rather dingy and crappy-looking farm. Like, everything is derelict, there's manure piled up all over the place, the house is just basically falling apart, it's just not good. And when Omi sees his parents, they aren't exactly the picture of perfect health, as they're both old and frail and both need walkers in order to stand up, and even his dad needs an oxygen mask in order to, breathe. As such, Omi is maybe a little disappointed to see his parents in this state, but, well, they're his parents, so he goes in to talk to them because he at least wants to know what his last name is, as he did make a big deal about it before with the other monks. And apparently, according to his dad, his last name's Crud. That is disappointing. But either way, Omi's parents are at least happy to see him again, and they mention that apparently the reason why they lost Omi, they think that they lost him in a shipment of fruit, which, like, right? parents, everybody. Point is, they're apparently happy to see Omi back, and they're more than happy to welcome him with open arms. Though, unfortunately, because they're farmers, they still have chores to do around their homestead, and so they want to go do them. Unfortunately, again, though, they're also very old, so they can't really do the chores in a timely fashion. And since these are his parents, Omi decides to utilize his Xiaolin techniques in Kung Fu in order to make the chores go faster, which he does, but it does tire him out with all the labor put in. As such, after Omi is done, he does seem to want to collapse, and his parents tell him that after a hard day's work, he should go back to his room. It's just as he left it, which Omi is a little confused by, since, well, he wants to go back to the temple with the other Xiaolin monks, but his parents say that since this is a farm, that tending to it is a full-time job, they'll need Omi's help now, which is weird considering that prior to Omi doing the chores that they insisted they could do it, but hey, maybe they saw the benefit. Although, considering what's really going on, this could have been a ploy. I don't know, we'll get back to that later. Point is, they want Omi to stay so he can do all the chores, and while the rest of the Xiaolin monks object to this, Omi reluctantly agrees to stay, because, well, these are his parents and he wants to do right by them. As such, after a heartfelt goodbye, Omi bids farewell to the Xiaolin monks as they ride away on dojo, but it's clear that Omi's evening is not going to be easy, as apparently his parents are going to be making his favorite dinner, which apparently is something he doesn't prefer. Forget what it's called. It's a chicken something. I don't know what. And then after that, he's going to be doing a bunch of other chores, which includes, but is not limited to, giving his parents a sponge bath. Swell. Either way, as the Xiaolin monks fly away, we see Wuya, Chase Young, and Hannibal. No. Wuya, Jack Spicer, and Hannibal. Sorry, got my names mixed up there again. As they watching them leave, and it turns out that this is exactly what they wanted. Omi was one piece of their united front, and so with him gone, the whole will be weaker. So they think this is the perfect time to just rush in on the temple and just grab whatever Shen Gong Wu they can get. And move in on them they do, as the next day they arrive at the Xiaolin temple, and a fight ensues between them and the Xiaolin monks. And while the Xiaolin monks do their best, again, they get their asses whooped. Without Omi, they're just not as strong. As such, it looks like the evil's gonna win this day, only for Omi to just turn up. How did he become aware of this attack on the temple? Chase Young told him. Yeah, like I said, Chase Young was keeping an eye on Wuya through one of his crows, and so he is fully aware of what Wuya and co are up to. And so, to try and throw a monkey wrench into this, he wound up meeting up with Omi when he was woken up to do the daily chores, and told him that his friends need his help and that maybe he should go and save them. While Omi at first did tell him, no, I gotta stay here, it's not honorable to leave my parents, well, ties that bind and all that, he went to go help his friends. As such, with Omi here, the Xiaolin monks are able to perform a Wudai Orion star formation, and the added boost of power does allow them to at least whoop the asses of the bad guys, and as such, it does seem like they're going to win the day. But the thing is, before Omi showed up, Jack Spicer did raid the Shen Gong Wu vault and did get an armful of Shen Gong Wu, and when he went knocked aside during the battle, he dropped the pile. As such, Omi goes to grab at the pile, only for someone else to grab it at as well. And that other person is his mom, much to his own confusion. As a result, Omi's mother challenges him to a Xiaolin showdown, with the challenge being that being a bamboo forest. Basically, remember the bamboo thicket I mentioned back in the Year of the Green Monkey episode? Well, that's going to be where this showdown takes place again. Only this time, instead of it being like a giant jungle gym, the bamboo stalks are going to be just high in the air, and it's up to Omi and his mom to stay on top of them. And the objective is for both of them to try and knock the other person off, and whoever falls off and doesn't get their footing is the loser. As such, Omi's mom wagers the Orb of Tournami, which he stole off of Omi while he was apparently clipping his dad's toenails, and Omi ends up wagering the Lasso Boa Boa. As such, while Omi doesn't want to fight his mom, he kind of has no choice here, and so, Xiaolin showdown time. And again, it's pretty cool effects. Well, sort of. It's honestly not it's honestly not the best effects. It feels like a retread of the Jungle Gym stuff from the Year of the Green Monkey episode, but it's still kind of cool as it does turn into a full bamboo forest, so I can dig it. Either way it happens, and Omi's mom does not hold back. As she keeps trying to knock Omi aside, they keep countering each other blow for blow, and she keeps listing all the ways that he was an ungrateful son. Of course, Omi doesn't want to fight his mom, because again, it's his mom, so he refuses to do an attack, but she does not share that sentiment, as she ends up pulling out the Orb of Tournami and tries blasting him with a stream of water. Only problem is, He's the Xiaolin dragon of water. So he ends up just intercepting the blast, and he ends up throwing it right back at his mom, which in turn knocks her off of her bamboo stalk. And while Omi does try to reach out to get her, he's too little too late as she falls off, and thus Omi wins the showdown, winning the Orb of Toonami and the Lasso Boa Boa. However, when everything gets reverted back to normal and Omi's mom crashes back onto the ground, well, she comes apart. Quite literally, her arms and her legs and her head all detach from her body, and we see that there's electricity sparking. Yeah, Omi's mom was a robot, and she wasn't the only one. And it's here we finally learn what the plan was for Jack, Hannibal, and Wuya. It turns out what they wanted to do was just trick Omi. Like I said, Wuya was the one who had been spying on the Xiaolin monks when Omi talked about feeling like he needed to find his family. So taking advantage of that, they went to Jack Spicer, and what they did is that they got a bunch of his jackbots, went to a random abandoned town in China, and using Hannibal's Moby Morpher, they basically shapeshifted all of Jack's robots to resemble townspeople. As a result, their plan was basically just to send Omi out there, have him find his family, and then as a result, he'd be inclined to stay, mostly by a guilt tripping, and as a result, the Xiaolin monks would be weaker. So, the plan was going on without a hitch, but, like I said, Chase Young threw a monkey wrench into it. As such, when Wuya realizes that she's being watched, she does kind of turn cowardice, but regardless, with the bad guy's plan basically foiled, Master Fong seems to come out of nowhere, grabs a good chunk of the Shen Gong Wu on the ground, and says they need to put them away. As such, Wuya grabs whatever Shen Gong Wu Master Fong didn't grab, and manages to slip away using the Shroud of Shadows, and Jack Spicer gets Jack and shit, because let's continue to crap on this kid. But he does manage to get away. However, as the Xiaolin monks are puzzled by this, Master Fong seems to come from nowhere again, and they're a little surprised to see him, since they just saw him with all the Shen Gong Wu. Of course, Master Fong is clueless to this, and everyone's able to put two and two together and realize that the Master Fong that ran away with an armful of Shen Gong Wu was really Hannibal using the Moby Morpher. So, yeah, despite the bad guy's plan still being foiled, they at least got a good few consolation prizes. Except Jack, because again, screw that kid. But regardless, while the ploy may have failed, Omi is still lamenting the loss because, his robot parents may not have been good parents, but for a while, they were his. And the other monks do try to assure Omi that it's okay, that somewhere out there are his real parents, but till then, Master Fong tells Omi that his quest to find where he belongs was at least successful. And Omi posits, well, what do you mean? Just came right back to where I started. But that was the point. Yeah, he may not have found the people that, created him. He may not have found his blood, but he did find his family. And sure enough, to kind of confirm this, the other Xiaolin monks end up all pulling out presents for Omi, which, it's sweet. I like it. It gives me the warm fuzzies. And as a result, Omi's just happy to see that while this may not have been the family he was born into, it was it's certainly the family he has. So it's good stuff. I like it. So there you go. Also, Dojo ate the chocolates he gifted Omi, and Omi is justifiably pissed about it, so what do you know? But anyway, that was Omi Town, and honestly, I'm surprised that I liked this much. Now, I remember watching this episode when I was younger, and I was a little cautious with it. Again, the thing is, I was cautious with most episodes in season 3. I think for my young mind, I thought, too much change, I don't like it, so I kind of just was a little wary of it. But now that I'm older and rewatching the episode, I can honestly appreciate it for what it does, and I think it's genuinely a nice episode. Again, I like the whole message that it kind of employs here. Basically, family is not always the one you're born into, but the family that you find. And I think the episode does a good job of implementing it. For the most part, you could argue that that the message is a little tainted by the fact that the born into family was not Omi's real family. After all, as they reveal at the end of the episode, all the townspeople in Omi's hometown and even his parents were just jackbots that were shapeshifted to look like they were Omi's kin. So it does kind of lose a bit of traction when you have that revelation. With that said, that does not make the ending of the episode any less heartfelt, because, well, it's nice to see that when it comes down to it and the chips are down, Omi's family is the Xiaolin Temple. They did, like, the thing is, while Omi may not know where his parents are or how he came to the temple, he was raised here. This is the life he knows, and it's at the Xiaolin Temple that he's found a life for himself. He's found family, he's found friends, he's found people he can rely on, people that he can turn to, a place that he can always feel welcome, and that's kind of what family is. Family are people that you can rely on when the chips are down. People that you can rely on when the chips are down. People that you know will have your back. People people who will always stand by you when the going gets rough. And I know I'm just restating a point there. Or basically just people people that you know that you can just trust. And that's what the Xiaolin Temple is to Omi. That's what the other Xiaolin monks are to Omi. And seeing Omi kind of come to that revelation, I won't deny, it's some sweet stuff. And I like how we see that implemented throughout the episode. When Omi meets his quote-unquote real family, there's just a sense of unease throughout it all. Again, yeah, we know the family is fake after watching the episode, but during the episode, you just get the impression that something is off about these guys. And yeah, again, ties back into what's really going on, but let's pretend for a second that this is Omi's real family. If they were Omi's real family, then sadly they don't deserve him. Like, even though they say they love him and care about him, at the same time, these are the same people who tried guilting Omi into staying, didn't really give a shit about his concerns or his well-being. Instead, they basically just said, oh no, we need you to stay here, son, because we need your help around here. Which, to be fair, I can understand that, but at the same time, it's clear that Omi doesn't exactly fit in with them. And I understand, again, you could argue that that doesn't mean that sometimes that you have, like, and I'm not going to say that analogy, it sounds rude, but you can argue that there are some people who don't have as shiny as an upbringing as others, and they go on to do bigger things. But the difference there in that regard is that in those regards, the family they come from doesn't mean that they're bad people. Just again, I don't want to use this analogy, but I can't find any way around it. Just because someone has a lower class upbringing doesn't mean their upbringing was bad. You can still have parents that, I don't know, grew up in the slums and their kid wound up going on to become rich and famous, and the parents could still be some decent, good people. But whereas with Omi's family, you could tell that these people were kind of garbage when you first met them. Like, these were people, like, they just kind of felt off about it. They didn't, when they saw Omi again, they didn't treat it as if it was a long and happy reunion that they met, that they missed their son. I mean, they did give him a hug and say, oh, we've missed you so much. But it wasn't the way you would expect it to be. If these were really Omi's parents reunited with him after so many years, their response would be, oh my god, Omi, is that really you? And embrace him. And I get the impression that if they saw that Omi had these people had the other Xiaolin monks as friends, they would basically be under the impression of, oh my god, you've been taking care of our son for so long, thank you so much. And even if they were farmers, I get the impression that they'd be more than supportive to help Omi. And hell, I could easily see Omi welcoming him back to the Xiaolin Temple. If they were Omi's parents, I suspect they'd be just as dedicated to farming as he is to Xiaolin Kung Fu. So I could see them just going to the temple and kicking ass and doing all this farm work, and while Omi is over here trying to find the Shen Gong Wu. Kind of reminds me of Clay and his dad, and how his dad eventually relented that his son needed to go out and save the world. So, I don't know, it kind of is nice. But again, in that same regard, but the thing is, from the very first time you meet them, you just know that something's not right about them. And the fact that they immediately start trying to guilt trip Omi into trying to stay with them, it immediately raises some red flags. And when his mom comes the hell out of nowhere and challenges Omi to a Xiaolin showdown, with the excuse being that when he's a parent, he'll understand why she has to do this, I'm just like, okay, something's clearly not right here. As, yeah, regardless of how shitty a person she is, I think that she wouldn't want to try and fight her son and get in the way of stopping the bad guys. Just saying. So I kind of do find that interesting. But in comparison, the Xiaolin monks had his back. They supported Omi no matter what he did. They wanted the best for him. And yeah, while they did object to some choices that he made in regards to his family, they ultimately just let Omi do what he wanted to do, just because they wanted for the best for him. And ultimately, while they may not have agreed with what he did, well, if what he thinks is the best is being with his family, then they're not going to complain. They'll lament, but they're not going to complain. And I do like that. And by the end, when Omi does choose them over his quote-unquote real family, it is nice. And seeing him fight side by side with them and seeing them give him the gifts, it's just some nice stuff, and I dig it. So, in that regard, I think the episode does a good job. I think it's honestly a good character piece for Omi. Him trying to find where he belongs and trying to figure out where he fits in, whether it's with his real family or with the Xiaolin Temple. I think that's some good stuff, and I do like seeing that journey play out. On top of that, it's just some good stuff. Again, got some good action. I like that Hannibal is kind of appearing more. It has kind of decided to immediately start doing some more evil shit here. So I at least like that, though this episode doesn't really make him seem like a big bad to me again. Again, I'll get more into it in later episodes, but again, while I don't hate him, at the same time, I'm not really getting the big bad vibe. With that said, it was fun seeing him, Wuya, and Jack Spicer working alongside each other. And hey, look at that! Even when Wuya got her physical form back, she still went to work with Jack frickin' Spicer. At this point, I'm surprised he doesn't have like a door for her that she can just waltz right in through. It's like, hey, Wuya, welcome back. Did your latest partner not work out? Sucks. Anyway, let's go find some Shen Gong Wu. I don't know. I just kind of love seeing Jack and Wuya working together again, and I'll get more into that when I finish my thoughts on the series and talk about all the villains. But just, I kind of like seeing it, and I do like, and I kind of like that despite Jack being basically shoehorned into working with Wuya and Hannibal, I think it's kind of nice that he did actually kind of in some way be treated like an equal. His robots were overused, he was in on the plan from the start, and if it wasn't for the fact that Hannibal and Wuya had to just basically cut and run, hold on a sec. Sorry, Stan slipped. But yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that Wuya and Hannibal had to cut and run with whatever Shen Gong Wu they could grab, what it seems like that he would have gotten a cut of the Shen Gong Wu. So the fact that they at least give him that much respect, I think is at least nice. I guess. And yeah, the showdown is appropriate. Is honestly nice. It was it was short, and the drama is kind of hampered by the fact that that Omi's mom is in fact a robot. But basically the aftermath of it is still heartfelt, and by the end, while the bad guys didn't achieve their ultimate goal of separating Omi from the group, they, like I said, got a few consolation prizes by stealing a few Shen Gong Wu. So what can you do? Either way, but regardless, I do honestly like the episode. It's another good character piece with Omi, and does a good job at kind of expanding on it. And I do like them, and I like the moral and how it's presented, how we reach into the episode. That's honestly, overall, just a good time. Like I said, I was honestly surprised rewatching the episode and actually finding myself enjoying it as much as I did. But I did enjoy it, and I do recommend it if you're interested in watching it. So, there you go. That's all I gotta say. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I hope to see you next week as we see the Xiaolin monks once again go off to perform another Wudai quest. One that'll give all of them a little advantage, so to speak. So till then, I hope you have a good Friday, and take care.